Tonight, lobbying to become running mate to Vice President Dr. Bawumia set to intensify as the party's highest decision-making body agreed to extend deadline for the Vice President to present his choice of running mate.
Our leader of the party and our presidential candidate should have presented his running mate to National Council. But however, he needs a bit of time to continue with his consultation before he brings the proposed name for running mate to National Council.
We have the latest on the host of names either being considered or actively lobbying for the role.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia had a deadline to submit his choice of a running mate to the governing party's highest decision-making body today. Well, in the last hour, the party has confirmed the Vice President will be unable to meet that constitutionally imposed deadline. An emergency meeting of the National Executive Committee and the National Council ended just over an hour ago to consider whether or not to give the Vice President more time. In the end, the decision was emphatic. With consultation still not complete and lobbying still in full swing, the Vice President has been giving more time to ponder over his choice and submit his decision. Now, listen to the General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Kodia-Frimpong.
In line with our constitution, particularly reference to Article 13(3)(2), and I'll read, the vice presidential candidate shall be a known and active member of at least 5 years and shall be nominated by a presidential candidate at least 12 months before general elections when the party is not in government or the president is not the candidate. The National Council may, however, dispense with this requirement under special circumstances. From interpretation of this article, it presupposes that today should have been the day that our leader of the party and our presidential candidate should have presented his running mate to National Council. But however, upon request from the presidential candidate that because his elections was done on the 4th of November 2023, he needs a bit of time to continue with his consultation before he brings the proposed name for running mate to National Council. And this was unanimously agreed by the National Council. So this is what happened today.
Well, my colleague Samuel Imbura was monitoring all this for us and is with me in the studio. Samuel, as we know, many names have come up. Did we see any of these names there today?
Exactly. Well, you know, one of the names that came out strongly has to do with the majority leader, Mr. Osechi Mensah. He was seated in front with the chief of staff, whose name has also come out lately, from Opare, at the meeting. Those were the two notable names that I saw at this meeting.
And by the way, as you've heard already here, I spoke to Chairman Zabonsu just a couple of weeks back, and I asked him about this same question, and he wouldn't give a straight answer to it. I mean, except that to say we should leave the vice president to make his own decision. But he was emphatic that as far as the consultations are concerned, it must happen. The party's constitution must be supreme. The story around the chief of staff is also interesting. Yeah. Her name had come up very strongly. There are those who, either herself or those who believe in their cause, have been lobbying on her behalf. We've seen her name pop up. she issued a statement some time back to say, in essence, that people should desist and allow the process to move along. So those two names have been pretty strong on the list. And in fact, today, many were telling me that name had come up again. I'm talking about the Oseche Mensah Bonsu.
Yeah.
And then there is the case of the current first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joe Owusu.
Exactly.
Who also had been tipped quite strongly on the same matter. Because, and as you may begin to observe, we've seen the likes of Chief Mensah Bonsu, we've seen the likes of Joe Owusu from the Ashanti region, and the conversation is around, okay, that person should come from the Ashanti region. In fact, it's on the same show that we spoke to Samuel Oku, a key stalwart in the camp of the Vice President, who was clear that he agrees with that school of thought.
I think that was also a strong feeling during and after the meeting. People you speak to off record indicated that, yes, it is not the case that it is a consensus that the candidate must come from Ashanti region, but the party is strongly considering someone from the Ashanti region, and the reason is simple, because the region is more than less their world bank when it comes to elections. They need someone like Mr. Joe Owusu said, someone who can rally the support of the people in Ashanti region to soar up their numbers in the upcoming elections.
Listen to him in that interview with me.
It is not fair to say that the Ashanti region has not been treated fairly. I don't think so. If you take them region by region, we have not been treated unfairly. But that's not the reason why I think the running mate should come from Ashanti region.
So, crystallize, why do you think the running
I've said so because then we can be assured that the massive votes the region comes, we can consolidate that.
You think the person will be critical in bringing you the votes or helping Bawumia get the vote from Ashanti?
Yes, it will be critical. My party always wins the region, but when we're able to win 70% or more often.
In fact, 75% plus upwards, that's when you sweep to Jubilee House.
Right. So if you get somebody who is liked, respected, and people have faith in, it is easy for that person to mobilize the votes to support the candidate himself. That's why I'll suggest that you should look at that region and pick from within that region. And I generally agreed in the party, generally agreed that if Bawumia wins, his running mate should come from the region.
Does Bawumia agree with this general view?
I think so.
Well, he won, and strongly from all the indications we've had today, the consideration is that this individual will come from the Ashanti region. Will it be Joe Owusu, who you just heard there? He's told me that as far as he's concerned, he's taking himself off the deck for the Vice President to make his own decision. We'll see. Another name that I heard today that was interesting is Kwabena Japan, the former General Secretary of the MPP. And the voices actually putting his name out there were strong voices, which was a surprise to me. But his name is out there in the conversation and popped up very strongly today around this meeting. Yeah,
I actually had that indication last night that he was one of the persons in the NPP from the Ashanti breed that the Vice President will be considering. But I didn't get the communication from those who came for this meeting today, especially from the regional executives who came from the Ashanti region, that they were not aware of this particular consultation. So it means that it has been something that is behind the doors conversation until the name came up strongly last night. We'll see. I mean, that obviously will be one that some may resist, obviously because of Kwabena Japan's own history with the party in just before the 2016 elections. Well, there were concerns, Evans, that people are still bitter with Mr. Kwabena Japan because of his issues with the party. So these are some of the issues that they need to iron out before they can take a final decision on him. And it's important to stress that today's meeting hinged on a constitutional provision, a provision in the party's own constitution. And this is the provision on selection of vice presidential candidate. It says the party's presidential candidate shall, in consultation with the National Council, nominate the vice presidential candidate. In other words, it is not his decision only. He only gets to nominate, and the party, that's the consideration, and a decision is made collectively. But this is the part that is instructive.
The vice presidential candidate shall be a known and active member of at least 5 years and shall be nominated by the presidential candidate at least 12 months before the general elections. And if you calculate in 12 months, it is today that he must do that. That's why the deadline was very clear. They could not have gone beyond today without a name on the table for them to consider the National Council meeting. And they'll be violating their own constitution, which is why this emergency meeting was triggered. Now, and this happens when the party is not in government or the president is not the candidate. As we've seen, the president is not the candidate. Bawumia is. The National Council may, however, dispense with this requirement under special circumstances. I want to bring in the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP now, who joins us on the telephone line right now, Haruna Mohammed. Mr. Mohammed, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you, Evans.
Also joining me is Dr. Sasante, is a political scientist, the senior political scientist at the University of Ghana Political Science Department. Also joining me is Dr. Richard Amakoba, who of course used to be the head of the Political Science Department at the KNUST and formerly had run and contested to be a chairman of the MPP. But let me start with you, Haruna Mohammed. So this constitutional provision I just read, you've varied it, you've extended the time for Bawumia, although today was a deadline. How much time have you given him exactly?
Thank you very much, Evans. I say good evening to your cherished listeners and my other colleagues on the other line for this particular conversation. An extension of time was given to His Excellency the Vice President and the presidential candidate of the new Patriotic Party upon request when this constitutional matter was put before National Council, which was the body that seizes the opportunity to discuss and dispense of that particular activity. So the National Council unanimously agreed to give His Excellency the Vice President and the leader of the party an extension to be able to do more consultation and come back to National Council for this selection of the running mate to him going forward to the 2024 general election. There was no specific timeline that was given him, but an extension was given him because today obviously was the deadline for such a constitutional provision.
So this is an indefinite extension?
Yes, of course, because timeline was not given him. Once an extension is given him, I think that the party will monitor as to when he would be able to submit such a name, and the National Council will sit and dispense with that matter.
And the reasons he gave for this request is what? He needed more time to consult.
Yes, because all of us will agree that he went into the elections, very competitive elections. Elections finished on the 4th of November. And on the 4th of November today, obviously he just have just 1 month in this particular office. You've seen that he's visiting other competitors. He's still visiting some of the chiefs. He's visiting, he's going around, crisscrossing around the country in addition to his duties as vice president. He has not done with all these matters, and he has also started with consultation in terms of who is going to choose as running mate. So obviously he citing these reasons for which he is unable to present it now and asking for more time for consultation. I believe that with consultation and good reason, he will be able to get the right person rather than to hasten for us to just have a name. I think that giving him more time is something that the National Party has done favorably to be able to ensure that we get the quality out of that.
I mean, but considering that you haven't specified when you expect him to return, this could drag on. I mean, there isn't even an estimation when you can realistically hope that Dr. Bawumia will come with a name. They could drag on to the last quarter of 2027, 2024 possibly, just before the elections.
I think it will be in a very reasonable time. Reasonable time in our estimation could be the time that the vice president will be able to present a name to National Council. Remember, a name could be submitted to National Council. Maybe that name may not be agreed by National Council. I have not seen such a situation, but it is something that can also could happen. But His Excellency wants to be very careful to be able to get somebody that will resonate very well with the teaming party supporters and the national leadership of the party. And I think that is not going to take much longer because he started the consultation before this time, but he needed more time to do further consultation to confirm and reconfirm and confirm again.
To say that he needed more time to consult much broader, considering that, of course, this has been on his mind, I believe, since he won this. Did he come to this meeting today with any suggestions, any list of people he may be considering?
His Excellency did not come to the meeting with any of these names, because if he had come, he would have been triggering Article 1331, where he has to come with a candidate. It did not say candidates. So he says that he still needs more time to consult before he can bring a candidate. So definitely there was no name that was proposed to us. It was about giving him more time to do further consultation.
Yeah, no name, but were there names? Of course, today, if he came with one name, that would be the nominee, and that would have triggered this particular clause. But if he came with a list and say, well, I'm going to consult on which of these individuals on this list I should pick, that would not have triggered this particular clause. So did he come with a list?
He never came with a list. He did not come with any list. He came with time extension, and National Council was unanimous on that request.
Mr. Mohammed, stay with me. Dr. Sasante, fair that the party agreed with Dr. Bawumia to extend the time?
Evans, I'm here.
Yes. Do you agree with the decision taken by the National Council today to extend the time?
Hello,
Dr. Sasante, can you hear me?
Hello, Evans.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Well, we have a terrible connection to him. Hopefully, let's see if I can get Dr. Richard Amakoba. Hello, Dr. Amakoba, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, this is your own party. What do you make of the decision of the National Council? Yeah, to say the Constitution, yes, says today's the deadline, but we've extended it because you needed more time to consult.
I can't really hear you very well, but I get the gist of it. So if I'm wrong with what you said, you tell me. It's a tough decision, but the one that has to be made, because they don't have a choice. I mean, they were able to change election rules in mid-election, so giving the Vice President more time should not be that difficult.
He says he needs more.
Appropriately so, because there's too many problems. First, within the party is divided. How do you unite the party, or even begin to unite the party? Because you need that. You need more people on your side. So your running mate becomes very critical. You have to get someone who's going to help you in that area. Someone who presumably belongs to the other side. You can bring more people from the other side to add to the side you are on already. You know what I mean? That's a very difficult task to do. And are they going to agree, the establishment, are they going to agree to such a candidate? So he has to think about it, and think about it very well. Otherwise, if he just picks anybody, it's a done deal.
I mean, Dr. Sasante,
divided party, and if you don't get someone who could bring more people to your side, then he's not adding to your candidature.
Dr. Sasante is on. Dog, what's your take on this? He now gets more time to consult more broadly.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello, Evans.
I can hear you loud and clear. I wanted to give you your take on what has happened today, but also the fact that he gets time to consult more broadly. And then this suggestion that whoever he picks must come from the Ashanti region, and I'll pick your thoughts on that. Unfortunately, that connection there isn't helping. But let me stay with Dr. Makoba. Doc, you are in Ashanti region. We just heard from Joe Sowusu, who says whoever emerges must come from the Ashanti region. Sincere apologies there. Let me quickly return to the studio whilst we try and fix this connection to the guest on the line. Apologies for that. But Sawambura, this is not the only decision that the party took today. One of that decision had to do with the parliamentary elections for areas where they have sitting members of parliament. That's what has been extended.
Exactly. So they have postponed it to the 27th of January 2024. And also, the General Secretary revealed that there are petitions for them to suspend campaigns until nominations are opened in those constituencies.
In the emergency meeting, it was agreed by NEC, which is in charge of parliamentary primaries of our party, that the date for the sitting members of parliament primaries be varied from 20th January to 27th January. So the new date for the elections at where the party have members of parliament will be on the 27th of January 2024. So kindly take notice of that. And the party also took the opportunity to also remind our party officers, particularly delegates for the upcoming presidential primaries, upcoming parliamentary primaries, of their duty to be members of good standing. And when we talk about members of good standing, it means they must pay their dues up to date. So this is what transpired today. Then lastly, the National Executive Committee also listened to requests from our members of parliament to suspend campaign activities in their constituents so that they can concentrate on our budget as presented in parliament. So then again, National Executive Committee unanimously agreed with that request, and I'm going to issue a statement to that effect by close of day to suspend all campaign activities in constituencies where we have sitting members of parliament until we open nomination.
So a lot happening within the MPP tonight on a day when they decided to extend the deadline for the Vice President to return with his choice of a running mate. I want to quickly try again with the other lines. I have Dr. Sasante again with me. Doc, can you hear me?
Yeah, Evans, I can hear you, but the line is very faint. If you could speak up a little bit.
Apologies again. Give me your thoughts quickly on the names that we've heard today. I mean, not only today, leading into today. Now that we know the Vice President gets more time to consult on which of these names he will present.
Evans, I'm struggling to hear. I can't hear anything.
Apologies there. That line obviously can hold. But I have Dr. Makoba who hopefully can hear me. Doc, what's your own thinking around the names that we've heard? Matthew Poku Prepe, Chairman Sabonsu, Joso Wusu. Now we've also heard, of course, Education Minister Mr. Duchum is in there. And then John Kuma has also been thrown in there. These names, they all come from the Ashanti region. And the consensus we've had from Joso Wusu is that whoever he picks must come from the Ashanti region. Your thoughts? And I have with me the General Secretary of the party, the Deputy General Secretary of the party, so with me, hopefully. Can you hear me, sir? Haruna Mohammed? Unfortunately, he can't hear me too. But this is obviously a big deal for the MPP today on this matter, trying to resolve the telephone connection. The Deputy General Secretary is on now. Haruna Mohammed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I mean, let's return to this second decision I was taking, the decision to extend the time for the elections in the constituencies where you have sitting members of parliament. The time distinction, it's not too far apart from the original time. Was that even necessary?
Even it was very necessary because at the time we took the decision to put the date on 20th of January, we had the briefing that Parliament might not have been in session on that time. So if you look at the date on which Parliament will leave, it will be advantageous to sitting members of Parliament. So we must be very mindful of how we set the date. So we looked at the Assembly elections too, and we can obviously be doing activities when a national election of that nature should be going on. All of us have the right to exercise our constitutional duty to go and cast our vote. So opening of the nomination was set a day after the elections of the Assembly members had concluded. So in view of their presence in Parliament and aside the passing of budget, there's appropriations and what have you, committee that. And these people are going to participate in the elections of members of Parliament or parliamentary candidates for our party. So it was good for us to give this consideration and extend it by 1 week. And that is why National Executive Committee, which seizes that power, had done so legally per the constitution of the New Patriotic Party.
And the main concern with these elections, with parliamentary primaries in the last year of an incumbent government's tenure, is that people will definitely lose their seats, and then it becomes a tussle with government now trying to get them to do business, work with them, although they belong to your own party. That definitely must be a concern of yours too.
Yeah, very, very, very well. Yeah, it's a very big concern for us, Evans. It's a very big concern for us. We see how we are going to manage this situation. Definitely, if water passes through the forest, some trees will definitely go down. And it's left with you to see how you best manage the positions of these trees. When we get to that bridge, at least we'll see how we are going to cross that.
Thank you very much. And that's the Deputy General Secretary of the MPP, Haruna Mohammed, and sincere apologies for the terrible connection we had to Dr. Richard Amakoba and Dr. Asasante because of the lines. We were unable to talk to them. But this is definitely a rolling conversation as the names begin to mount up. People are still actively lobbying. This is your election headquarters indeed. And when we hear more, we will tell you. And if they say closer to a decision, you you can bet you will hear that choice here on Joy 99.7 FM Newsnight in a minute.